The Lion's Den, the scandalous reign of Louis B. Mayer, Hollywood's ruthless puppet master. In the glittering world of Hollywood's golden age, one man stood as both its architect and its autocrat, Louis B. Mayer. As co-founder of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studios, Mayer transformed a fledgling industry into a dream factory, producing stars and stories that captivated the globe. But behind the silver screen's allure lay a realm of power plays, scandals, and secrets that Mayer controlled with an iron fist. Who was the real Louis B. Mayer? Born on July 12, 1884 in Diamir, which was part of the Russian Empire, Mayer's early life was a far cry from the dazzle of Hollywood. The son of poor Jewish immigrants, he faced anti-Semitic hostility and grinding poverty. At just 3 years old, Mayer's family emigrated to America. Arriving in 1887, they briefly settled on Long Island, only to board another ship to Canada. From Long Island to St. John, Newfoundland, Mayer's early years were harsh. His father had 2 strikes against him. He was unskilled and barely able to speak English, so he eked out a living collecting and salvaging scrap metal. And young Louis was set to follow in his father's footsteps, dropping out of school at 12 to help support his family. But in these humble beginnings, Mayer learned 2 skills that would define his life: how to hustle and how to sell a dream. At 20, Mayer moved to Boston, still in the junk trade, but fate was nudging him closer to the spotlight. Mayer had discovered his passion, show business. The vaudeville siren beckoned him to escape. In 1907, he bought a burlesque theater. This venture marked the genesis of his ascent into the world of entertainment. Mayer transformed the seedy, dilapidated theater into a successful venue for motion pictures. His first film screening was a religious epic, From the Manger to the Cross. But the gamble paid off. Within a few years, he was operating a successful string of theaters throughout New England. Then came his next big leap: film distribution. Nothing would stop him now. Mayer's big breakthrough came when he snapped up the rights to Birth of a Nation, sight unseen, for a staggering $25,000. From this, he made a whopping $100,000. But this film wasn't just a hit, it was a stain. There was something very, very wrong with this film. The source material for The Birth of a Nation is a novel called The Klansman, and yes, it does refer to that clan. Some have called The Birth of a Nation the most reprehensible film in Hollywood's history, a vile piece of racist propaganda glorifying the Ku Klux Klan. But Mayer didn't care. Money fueled his ambition and paved the way for his move to Hollywood. Mayer's rise was meteoric. In 1918, he launched Louis B. Mayer's Pictures in Los Angeles, forming crucial alliances with powerful producers. In LA, he met Irving Thalberg, a brilliant young executive from Universal. Thalberg made a strong impression on Mayer. He was so taken with Thalberg that he offered him more than just money and a secure future working for him. He promised a bond of loyalty. Thalberg accepted, and the two began a working relationship that would span many years. While Mayer may have treated Thalberg like a son, this friendliness was rare. In 1924, Mayer merged his company with Metro Pictures and Goldwyn Pictures, forming Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, MGM, which would become the most powerful studio in Hollywood. Mayer took the helm as vice president, but he was no longer the boss. Mayer had to report to Nicholas Shenick, a man he loathed. Mayer secretly called Shenick Mr. Skunk, but Mr. Skunk couldn't stand in the way of Mayer's creating Hollywood as we know it today. Sure, Mayer hated his boss, but he and Thalberg continued to get along like a house on fire. They agreed that the most important thing about filmmaking was to produce quality, wholesome entertainment that resonated with American values, no matter what the budget. And they wanted to make Hollywood legends. Mayer had one golden rule: image is everything. Mayer didn't just create films, he created stars. Mayer had an uncanny ability to identify and cultivate talent. On a trip to Berlin, Mayer caught a glimpse of a beauty in a Swedish film, Greta Garbo. Mayer was so enchanted with her that he lured her to America. In 1925, Garbo took the arduous crossing to the United States and then waited for her career to begin. And she waited. 6 months passed until eventually Thalberg gave her a screen test and realized that Mayer had been right. She was going to be a star. Once Garbo was back on Mayer's radar, he wanted to put her in a film. Garbo's debut in Tyrant as a Spanish peasant was an odd fit, but audiences loved her. Mayer, with Thalberg by his side, was on a winning streak, until tragedy struck. Mayer and Thalberg seemed like an invincible match, until in 1936. Pneumonia claimed Thalberg at the age of 37. Mayer lost his partner and had to steer MGM alone. Skeptics predicted ruin, but Mayer continued to defy them. Many people in the film industry suspected that Thalberg was the magic behind MGM films. With Thalberg gone, they assumed that MGM would fail. But this didn't happen. 3 years after Thalberg's passing, Mayer had his best year ever, with the release of Gone with the Wind and The Wizard of Oz. Thalberg had been the one to push for more sophisticated stories. Mayer, on the other hand, preferred wholesome family fare. He had a great respect for the tradition of marriage and motherhood, and this showed in the films he chose to produce. In 1937, Mayer's annual salary was a staggering $1.3 million, the equivalent of almost $30 million today. He became the highest paid man in America. Undoubtedly, he was a good businessman, but his real talent was spotting a face that would capture moviegoers. Mayer believed stars were crafted, not born. Through makeup, hair, and even surgery, MGM created illusions. Talent was optional, but beauty, non-negotiable. He made stars, but only if they played by his rules. As long as they looked good under the camera lights, Mayer believed the studio could do the rest. Acting, dancing, even charm could be taught or faked. It didn't matter to Mayer. But looks, that was the currency of the MGM Dream Machine. Behind closed doors, studio surgeons and stylists went to work, shaving noses, fixing teeth, taming bodies with brutal precision. Stars weren't born, they were built. And Mayer, he was the architect. But he didn't just mold adults. Louis B. Mayer had a special interest in child stars. To the public, he was their protector, offering private tutors, doctors, acting coaches. Perhaps he just loved children for their innocence, for the sweetness they brought to the silver screen. But innocence is easy to exploit, and under Mayer's strict eye, even the youngest stars weren't spared from his obsessive control. To a young Elizabeth Taylor, he was a tyrant. She once said he was a monster. But Mickey Rooney saw him differently. Like a daddy, he said. But even Mayer's fatherly love always came with strings. And even Rooney wasn't safe from the fallout. When Mickey Rooney stepped out of line during his run as Andy Hardy, Mayer's mask slipped. One day, the towering mogul grabbed the teenage star by the coat and hissed, "You're American, kid, and you better act like it." But Mayer's iron grip only tightened when it came to the young woman he saw as his prize creation. Her name was Judy Garland. Mayer discovered her when she was just 13. She wasn't beautiful in a typical Hollywood way. Mayer had a derisive nickname for her. He called her "my little hunchback." He sent her to MGM's secret acting school. She was remade, coached, corseted, and crushed into the role of a lifetime. But as we will see, her greatest success would be surviving him. At MGM, stars were assets, not people. Their lives were scripted by publicists. Mayer dictated how they dressed, who they dated, even their names. Norma Jean became Marilyn Monroe, and Frances Gumm became Judy Garland. Garland's teenage years were consumed by work and emotional manipulation. Mayer micromanaged Garland's body like it was a prop. While other stars dined on steak and champagne, Garland was served chicken soup and black coffee. For Mayer, any softness on her body was a threat to the MGM brand. But the real threat was what he did to her behind closed doors. There are claims that Mayer would sometimes place his hands where they didn't belong. The young Garland had no way out of this lion's den. Mayer's factory of fame had one demand: non-stop production. To keep the children performing, Mayer allegedly ordered doctors to prescribe stimulants, pep pills, to keep them going. Garland said it started when she was just a kid. They worked around the clock, wired and exhausted. And when they couldn't sleep, Mayer had a solution for that too. Barbiturates, sedatives to force sleep when the body refused. The cycle was vicious. Amphetamines to wake up, downers to pass out, and it didn't end with youth. By 1950, Garland was unstable and spiraling. Production on summer stock was a mess. Mayer's team wanted to shut it down, fire her, and move on. But for once, he stood up for her. "Judy's made this studio a fortune," he said. "The least we can do is give her one more chance." It was a rare display of mercy, but even then, it came too late. For Garland, the final curtain at MGM didn't close. It crashed and burned. Summer stock had been her last reprieve. Her next film, Royal Wedding, was supposed to be her comeback. But Garland never finished it. She missed rehearsals, missed filming, missed her chance. This time, Mayer had no pity. She was out. But Garland wasn't the only victim in the lion's den. Jean Harlow, platinum blonde, box office gold, every man's fantasy. And Mayer wanted to keep it that way. Behind her dazzling smile was a bitter truth. Mayer reportedly inserted a no marriage clause into her contract. Why? Because a married seductress didn't sell tickets. Love was off limits. Her image belonged to him, and to the public fantasy he manufactured. But the puppet master didn't only control the lives of his female stars. In 1947, rumors swirled about rising star Van Johnson. They said he was gay, an unpardonable offense in Mayer's Hollywood. So Mayer devised a brutal solution: orchestrate a marriage. Johnson's best friends were actress Kian Wynne and his wife Eve Leanne Abbott. Mayers ordered that Abbott divorce Wynne and marry Johnson. Happily married, Abbott declined, so Mayer forced her hand. No one said no to Mayer. He warned Abbott that if she didn't go through with the sham marriage, her husband's career would be over. Faced with that threat, she relented. Their fake, loveless, solely performative marriage went on for 20 years. Mayer got his headline. The truth got buried. Behind the many MGM facades, Mayer had a secret army manufacturing the illusions. Mayer didn't just control his stars. He controlled every rumor and every scandal. But it was a lot of work to do all by himself. So he employed fixers to do his dirty work. Powerful men who could silence a story, erase a police record, or bury someone, sometimes literally. Howard Strickling polished MGM's image in the press, but Eddie Mannix handled the really nasty work: intimidation, violence, cover-ups. Mayer gave the orders. Mannix made the mess disappear. And even Mayer had his own scandals to hide. Jean Howard, a striking actress with ambition and intelligence, caught Mayer's eye. But Mayer didn't flirt. He pursued. One source claimed he literally chased her through a room shouting his demands. But Howard wasn't easily intimidated. She gave him a firm no, and then did something even more rebellious. She married someone else, But this just made Mayer really angry. According to whispers lost in the smoky back rooms of Tinseltown, MGM's golden boy and star of Gone with the Wind, Clark Gable, once caused a deadly accident while drunk. But instead of handcuffs, Gable got protection. Mayer found someone else, an MGM executive, to take the fall. A cover-up story worthy of a Hollywood film. The ruthless Mayer had two faces and could play people's heartstrings when it suited him. In 1937, when Nelson Eddy refused to sing a sappy number in Rosalie, Cole Porter stormed to Mayer to complain. Mayer, ever the showman, had Porter perform the tune, and he wept in an excessive display of emotion. Needless to say, Eddy caved and sang the song, but many insiders knew the truth. Mayer's tears weren't real, they were strategic. The man didn't just direct movies, he directed people. After all, Mayer's greatest talent was manipulation. He wasn't just the puppet master behind the curtains, he was always center stage. Although he was never on the screen, he performed every day. He could beg, sob, rage, or flatter, all in one conversation. He called it negotiation. Others called it psychological warfare, until he picked a fight bigger than even he could charm his way out of. When the U.S. entered World War II, Mayer took on Hollywood's most dangerous villain, Nazi Germany. As Hitler's shadow stretched across Europe, Mayer didn't stay silent. He greenlit anti-German films at a time when Hollywood still relied heavily on European box office revenue. And when Germany threatened a boycott, Mayer didn't blink. He made his choice, but crossing dictators has consequences. Mayer was playing a dangerous game. The Hayes office said, stop. Mayer said, make it bigger. When the U.S. Film Board told film studios to back off Nazi rhetoric, Mayer just doubled down. He felt strongly about what was happening in Europe, so he greenlit Miss Miniver, a powerful portrait of British resistance. It defied censorship, defied fear, and it hit the world like a tidal wave. Miss Miniver was a heroic shout against fascism. It earned 6 Academy Awards and became a wartime anthem for courage. Mayer, for once, wasn't the villain. He was a visionary at the height of his popularity. But even a king can't stay in power forever. Post-war Hollywood was changing, and Mayer couldn't keep up. Audience wanted gritty realism and innovation. Mayer, the master of glossy escapism, was suddenly out of touch. The order came down from the top brass. Cut cost, trim the fat. But Mayer only knew how to go big. He left MGM in 1951, unwilling, unable, and outplayed. Still, he had one last wild card. Cinerama. Always one to dream big, Mayer invested in Cinerama. 3 projectors, a massive curved screen, a revolutionary viewing experience. And Mayer banked on it. But the future was television, not circus-sized screens. In 1954, he pulled out of the project, and with it, out of relevance. The mogul who once ran Hollywood had become a ghost in its rearview mirror. Louis B. Mayer died on October 29, 1957, of leukemia. He received an honorary Oscar, a star on Canada's Walk of Fame, and even a theater named after him. The industry paid tribute, but beneath the applause were 1,000 silent grudges. At his memorial, the stars came out, the moguls, the legends, the protégés, and among them stood comedian Red Skelton, who delivered the final punchline. Like he used to say, give the public what they want, and they always show up. And show up they did, to bury the man who built the Dream Factory and crushed so many dreams inside of it. If you enjoyed this Factinate video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more incredible stories. Want a say in who we cover next? Join our membership program through the link in the description for exclusive perks. Your support means everything to us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.